everybody, I'm Tom Vasel. Welcome to 6 short game reviews of games where only one of these I'm going to recommend. But there's some okay things in here, and there's one I don't particularly care for. So we got them. They're very, very different games. We have a trick-taking game, a push-your-luck game, a game about grilling, a game about Greece, gods, and balancing marbles. Let's take a look. Pass is a trick-taking game with a weird name. In this game, the suit is won by, you count up the numbers, and whatever the blues have the most, then blue wins. Let me show you. So we have a deck of cards here that have 4 different suits. There's pink, blue, green, and yellow. They're numbered from 1 to 12. Some cards have diamonds on, which are they're worth different points. You also can see what color each card is on the back. And at the beginning of a round, players are going to get dealt 8 cards from the deck. One player goes first, and that person plays a card. Now, you can play any card you want, unlike other trick-taking games where you have to follow suit. Once you've played these cards, you're going to see which suit has the majority. You'll add the numbers. So 11 plus 1 is 12. 9 plus 8 is 17. So green has the majority. Whoever has the highest of the majority takes 2 of the cards, any 2 they want. Maybe they take these 2. Or takes 1 card, I'm sorry. And whoever has the second highest gets 2 cards. Maybe they'll take these 2. Then you just put those cards in front of yourself. Now, at the end of a round, whoever has, you're going to get a point for each card in front of you, as well as points for diamonds that you get. But if you ever at any point get 1 of each card in front of you, then you get a pass. And you'll mark it on the score sheet. You get 3 passes over the course of 3 rounds, you win the game. Otherwise, you play another round and keep going until everyone's played all their cards. And then you add up the points, and whoever has the most points after 3 whole rounds of this wins the game, unless, of course, someone gets 3 passes first. Now, there are some rules about if there is only, 1 card of each. The second player is the player who played the card of the second highest majority. Or if there's a tie, whoever plays first wins those ties. But that's basically how it works. I really feel like this game just is missing the mark for me. Pass, I like trick-taking games as a matter of course, and I like trick-taking games that have a simple aspect to them. This has that simple aspect to it, but it almost has a bit of negotiation in it, which doesn't work for me in this particular game, especially since you can see the backs of people's hands, you can find out pretty quickly like, oh, and all the cards aren't dealt out. So everyone has blues and pinks, and I have a lot of greens. I'm not going to win anything. I can't do anything with these greens, because once other people run out of green cards, I'm not going to get first or second place. And that just feels meh, and it doesn't work so well. And the game doesn't play as smoothly as I would like it to be. Someone plays the 8 blue, and the next person goes, well, do I want to play the second highest blue because that's better than the highest, or do I want to start a new color? Now, I know that's the whole fascinating point of the game, but it doesn't play out as cool as I want it to. And I think a lot of it is the fact that those initial cards are randomly drawn from a larger deck, which I always have a problem with. I guess if it's 6 players, they're mostly out, or they're all out. But then 6 players is chaotic in its own regard. And then the scoring, it just feels like a lot of work for not a lot of payoff. So the name and the idea is interesting. This one just kind of really fell for me. This is a 5 out of 10. Seaside, which you can get rid of this box, really, because it comes in a nice bag here. This is from Randolph Games. They're best known for playing cards and things like that. And this is this is a game that they brag that you can play at the beach. Now, I think any game you play at the beach needs to involve sports, balls, shovels, and what have you, not board game pieces. Ugh, seems terrible. But it's wood, so I suppose you could. So let's talk about it. We'll be right back. There's a bunch of very nice wooden tokens that will be thrown into this bag. You'll pour a certain amount of these tokens randomly so you don't know what's in the bag. On a player's turn, they're going to reach into the bag and they're going to pull out a tile. They're going to secretly look at both sides of the tile and then decide what to do. And there are 7 different kinds of things. There are the isopods, shell, or crab. These, you see there's a blue on them. You throw it into the sea, and then you get to pull another token from the bag. So it's kind of a push-your-luck style game. You can keep throwing these into the sea. But at some point, you're going to want to play something else. If you play a sandpiper, you can take as many isopods as you want from the sea, and you put them underneath here to make a stack. But if you take a stack, you need to you need to take a larger stack than you have in the future. These are going to be worth points at the end of the game. If you take a beach, you're going to add it here, and then you get shells from the sea equal to the number of beaches you have. So the more beaches, the more shells you're going to get. If you do a wave, you will flip over one of your beaches and do whatever the other side of the beach says. In this case, it happens to be another wave, and all your waves are going to go into a stack. And then if you play rocks, you'll see the rock has a little crab symbol here. You put it on the seaside. Your first rock doesn't do anything, but when you get a second one, you will take all the crabs of the sea, and you'll take one from someone else to you. And then you have a big pile of crabs. When the bag is empty, the game's over. Whoever has the most waves in front of them will get anything that's left over in the sea. Then you just take all of your tokens and stack them up. And whoever has the highest stack is the winner. The biggest problem with Seaside is the fact that it's kind of this weird mix between a really simple game and a how does that piece work again? Yes, you know how the seagulls, you know which thing in the ocean they work with, so you'll be able to match them up and pull them out. But at the end, there's a reference sheet in here, so I want to give them the credit that there's a little reference sheet. But again, this is supposed to be a game that's really simple to play, and it's a push your luck style game, which can be really fun for some people. Like, ooh, I'm putting out stuff in the sea, and there's the seagull, and I take it all. And the next person draws something that, well, their turn's over right away on the first one. And also, you don't know what's in the bag. You take out a bunch of tiles. It just feels a little clunkier than I like it to be. I like the concept. I like the components. I think it's good. It's just that I think a lot of people who aren't big board gamers, that this is the game for them, and they're going to struggle with the fact of remembering what rules do what. The waves do this, and most waves at the end do that. And again, as a gamer, I can get all that, but I think the target audience will not. So I think there's some interesting ideas here, but it's just a 6 out of 10 for me. Runir is a game from a company called Gamia Games from Iceland, and they make really nice style games here. With all this, some really cool pieces in here. So let's take a look at it, and we'll be right back. So this is the board that's going to be randomly made up of a bunch of boards. You can roll dice or just put boards together. It doesn't really matter. The box is going to have the scoring section on it, and I don't know that I love that because you can see I have it partially underneath the board so that this flap doesn't keep coming up over here. What players are going to be doing on their turn is the players have a bunch of crystals, and they're trying to get points. And you're going to do that by rolling these dice with runes. You're then going to try to look around here and find a stone that you can use these runes on. Now, you can always put one of your gems, and each player has a certain number of gems. When you run out of gems, the game ends, to take one die and set it to any rune you want, or to re-roll dice. You can also spend these and get special abilities, and each of those is a different chart that will show you throughout the course of the game. Once you find some matching runes, so let's see, I have 2 stars here. Hey, I can put one of my runes in this stone here, and then these other 4 don't seem to match at all. But let's pretend that I did get 4 of the same thing here. Well, then I can take this matching stone here. Now, this is kind of a copper, this is kind of a gold. So I'll take one of these 2 coppers and one of these golds. You can pick either stack, and these are going to be worth points at the end of the game. You can see a 3 and a 5 point. You also need these because you want to try to get these tokens here. These are going to give you points. So this one says if I have 2 silver, 2 gold. This one if I have 3 silver. And they all have various things. Sometimes they need a specific type of the backing. And those are going to be worth 2, 3, or 4 points depending on where they are. You're also going to get sets for these that you collect at the end of the game. And you have a point for each of these that you didn't use over the course of the game, although that's not much. You should use them. Then it's the next person's turn. That's the game. There's some black dice. One of the special abilities can give you an extra, you can pay to get an extra die. But once both of the spots on these runes are filled up, no one can do that particular rune again. Unfortunately, Runir just falls flat for me. And I really wanted to like it, but there's a lot of problems I have with the game. The runes, and I don't know why board game companies insist that rolling runes is an easy thing to do as you then take a look at these wispy symbols and match them up there. It's just not easy to do. So you're taking a look at this. And finally, and it's a Yahtzee-esque game, but you have to spend points to re-roll, spend points to use powers. But if I roll well, I don't need to do that. So sometimes someone will roll well. Ooh, I got these really good ones. They're worth a lot of points. Other times, your roll doesn't do well, and there's not enough rolls in the game that luck evens out. It's also just those extra bonus missions. Oh, the one I can accomplish is now on a 2. So I get 2 points. 2 points. You get more points from just getting these runes in general. And the game also kind of fizzles to a halt as time goes by. There's less and less spaces that you can get. So you're like, well, I sure hope I roll this simple. I did not. Man, there's a lot of cool things here. It just doesn't come together in a good game. I really disliked it, actually. A 4 out of 10. That's Runir. License to Grill is a game that I thought was a cool theme. With a grill, it's a neighborhood grill. Everyone's grilling on the same grill at the same times. You're all turning the heat up and down, and you're putting things down. It's a polyomino game. And so I was excited about it. Don't love the cover, but the cover's fine. The back of the game, though, and the game itself is pretty blah looking. I was kind of surprised that it just... I think this game is made, and I would bet this game is made. It was originally crowdfunded, but I bet it was made for mass market stores. That's fine. Let's take a look. We'll be right back. In this game, players are going to be grabbing food and putting it on the grill, which is in the inside of the box here. This warming rack doesn't lay down as much as I would like it to. But, anywho, on your turn, you're going to have 2 actions. Now, your actions are listed at the bottom of your player board. You prepare, season, grill, sauce, rest, and serve. So to prepare, you just take a food. For example, I might take steak. Each food has some tracks. You're going to put cubes on those tracks to show how many points it's going to be worth. The longer this one cooks, so this, you can see a cook is 2. Steak is no good at the beginning, but then it becomes 2, then 4, then back down to 2. While when you leave the steak out at the end, you're going to leave it on your prepared area, your resting area. You don't want it to be anywhere except right here, or else you're going to lose some points. And if you let it cook too long, let it rest too long, or let it prepare too long, then you have to get rid of it. So there's also some flavor text, which I'm going to comment later, but this one says, in case of vampire steak, or oyster says, all shucks, or this tofu skewer says, it's soy nice to meet you. Just keep that in mind. Anyway, this shows the shape of whatever it is. And so I'll look through and I find, here we go, here's my steak. And as an action, when I first get the steak, I have to put it here in my prepare area. And if you don't have room for it, you can't put it there. And then each turn that you leave it at the beginning of your turn, these are all going to move up. But you want to get it on the grill. Now the grill has 2 spots. It has this hot side and it has side for meats and side for vegetables. Although if you get something that is yellow, so for example, I might have this soup here, and I can put that here. It can go on either side or even halfway on each of these. When you put it on, you can change the heat. The hotter something is, the more your cube on here is going to move. So you don't want to get things too hot, or maybe you do, depending on which foods that you're putting on the grill. Now, as you put these foods on the grill, another action is you can pull them off the grill. You then have to put it in your rest area. But you have to, again, make sure that you have enough room to put it in the rest area. And finally, you're going to serve it as an action, and you put it out here. Anywhere on this whole thing, and when you cover up spots out here, you will get those bonus actions. One of the bonus actions is seasoning and saucing things, and for that, you just add a cube here and here. When you finally do serve it, that's when you're going to get the points for it, and you're just basically going to add these seasoning and sauces. Will add 1, although you can see this pork steak here can have a lot of sauces on it. So you can have a lot of points, and then adding up the other points on it. And you're going to keep going, and eventually the game is going to end. When someone has served their 4th recipe by putting it out here, they finish your turn, everyone else gets 1 turn, and whoever has the most points is the winner. There's a lot of cool concepts in Grill. There is one thing, though, that Grill wins an award for possibly the worst writing on any cards ever. Zucchini, raised in captivity. Grill leaks. We have ways of making you stalk. Quiche. Honey, have you seen my car quiche? Potato, boil and mash them, stick them in a stew. That's fine. Grilled vegetables, picked from the front of a car. Lentil burgers. The burgers above the door. It's terrible. Okay, well, whatever. Like I said, the game doesn't have a good look to it, unfortunately. There's a few other minor flaws to the game. The oven, turning it up or down, and you can have it do more cubes or less cubes, and you put on the back of it, the burner, where it doesn't go up to or not. It's still a little chaotic when you're going around. If you have more than 3 players, and more than 2 players, I'm sorry, but 3, 4, and 5, that heat changes so much that you really don't have any kind of control over, especially the person right before you. They can be like, I'm just going to turn up the heat. And I don't know, that's somewhat interesting, but it feels very random. That tablecloth where you put out the stuff when you're done has symbols on it. Well, sometimes you can use those symbols, sometimes you can't. But you know what? You're always going to cover them up. Why? So that other people can't use them. And after a while, that gets less interesting too. And then the meats and stuff. I showed you an interesting one, steak. But there's other ones, and they're not all interesting. I would like more that went up or down, so you're trying to let it sit out a little bit longer, put it here a little bit longer. But usually your best bet is to cook it, get it, season it, do this, put it out. And the fact that you only do 4 and the game's over means the game ends you a little bit unsatisfied. I like the idea, the concepts, the taking the polyominoes, fitting them into spots, but fitting them in a prep spot, who cares? You're never going to have a problem fitting stuff there. It almost feels like it was just, that's there because, well, they've already had you put stuff in every other spot. But you got to get it out on the tablecloth before it goes bad anyway. So it's not like you don't have a lot of actions to be doing that. So the polyomino thing, except for the grill itself, where it does matter where stuff fits, feels like an extra step that didn't need to be there. But it feels like it's on the cusp of being a fun game. It just is a little short for me, and that's License to Grill. I give it a 6 out of 10. Mytikas. This is a game here at the top of Mount Olympus. And you are builders who are trying to get close to Olympus and make sacrifices to the gods. This is not a theme that really attracts me much because it just seems particularly uninteresting. Let's see how it plays.
This is the main board where you're going to be building buildings, although this is another main board over here. We'll be taking actions, and each player will have their own board in front of them. Now, your own board is going to show you buildings that you're going to build, and you want to build buildings because at the end of the game, buildings are going to give you points based on, well, it shows you here, ×4, on also what level they're built. Each of these numbers here is a plot where a building can be built, and having them all filled on 3 of the 4 levels will trigger the end of the game. The game will also trigger when somebody has built all their buildings, and also if all the gods are unlocked. You're also going to score points from gods. Each player will start with 1. So here I have Hermes that I'm starting with, who gives me points for, well, having god cards. And they also give you a special ability. And you'll start with an offering token on them, and that's going to matter. So I talked about the end of the game. I talked about points. The way the game is played is on your turn. You will take your character, and you are going to place them on a spot where nobody else is. And so as you place them, you'll notice there's going to be a lot of spots that are full, but there is a day and a night to these different actions. When you go to a spot, you will take the main part of that action. This one, for example, gives me a favor token. If you have the favor token that matches that color, so let's say I already had the blue favor token, I would also get to do this action down here, which is going to let me build some resources here. And we'll talk about that in a second on how that works. If someone else has a blue token, when I take that action, they may spend their token. You don't spend your token to get the bonus. It just happens automatically. But anybody else can spend a token to take the main action after you are. So if I really want to build one of my temples and someone else goes there, I'm like, man, I really want to do that now, and I have a yellow token, I can spend it to be able to take that action. The actions are going to be mostly getting resources. So there are 3 resources in the game: gold, marble, and stone. When you get these resources, they're often going to be put on your board here in different spots, usually based on the things that are producing them. Other actions are going to allow you to move them up because you need to get them up to the higher tiers if you want to build something there. When you build more of these production places or temples, each of them has a cost, which is shown here on the side of the board. And when you build them, you also get a bonus, like this one here, for example. When I build the big temple, will give me 2 favor tokens. Other than that, I want to get these offering glory tokens. I can go here. I get more based on temples. And when you make an offering, you can put these on gods. Now, why do you want to do that? Well, if I put more tokens on a god than is already there, I will steal that god from another player, or I can take the face-up one over here. Once a god has a certain amount of tokens on, so let's say this god had 4 on, I'll take these off and take this level 4 lock token and put on him. Nobody can take that from me the rest of the game, and that reveals another god, in this case Aphrodite, who can be taken and claimed. But now the lock number goes up to 5 or 6, and the number of those out is based on the number of players. And that's basically the game. You're going to go back and forth. These gods were going to give you special abilities that, like, for example, Hera here says that when you go, let me get this into focus here. Hera says that when you go to this spot, you're going to get a bonus, basically, where you have here. And then at the end of the game, she will also give bonus points. So you have to decide, which gods are going to help give you the bonus points, but they're also going to give you special abilities throughout the game. Once the game's over, you count the points, which are mostly from having built buildings and having gods, and whoever has the most is the winner.
This is what we would call a worker movement game, because you put your worker out, you have one worker, and they move to a different spot. You're going to find that those spots are covered up. The spot you want is there. So this game has a very interesting flow. There's a couple interesting things about it. First, getting the resources. You put them, and then you need to move them up the mountain. You definitely want stuff up the mountain, because up in the mountain, building up there is going to get you better points at the end of the game. But you're also fighting over these gods, which can give powerful bonuses and also give you points at the end of the game. So there's 2 distinct strategies there, but all of it revolves around these favor discs. And it's really interesting because I played with some people who are like, I do not want to spend these favor discs. So I'll get 1 of each color, and then I just go to spots and always get the bonuses. Now here's the thing though, if you take a disc and there's no disc left to take, then you take one from somebody else, which means they might not have one. But spending them gives you extra actions, and you have to know when to do that because you want to get these extra actions. It will save you time. Someone's getting resources. You're like, I would also like to get resources at this point in time. Okay, so now my turn, I can go to this other spot, and it saves me a bunch of actions. But if you spend them willy-nilly, then you don't have any, and not having any makes them hard to get them back because 2 of the ways to get favor discs are on bonuses for which you need favor discs. So that's kind of an interesting back and forth. The game does not ask its welcome. It says in here it's 30 to 60 minutes. I would say it's closer to 45 to 60 minutes. But there's some interesting concepts here. I don't think it looks particularly great. And I think it takes a bit to understand all the symbology. I think it makes sense after a while. And the gods, looking them up and seeing what their powers are. But I was pretty pleased with this one. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Tightrope is a game that I got as soon as I saw it. You're stretching out these hair ties and balancing marbles on them. That's all we need to know.
At the beginning of the game, each player is going to get 5 of these pegs, which you'll take turns putting in various spots on the board. And then when you're done doing that, everyone's going to get 3 stretchy bands, which they're going to put around these pegs. And let's get this last one on here. There you have it. So these are all placed out there. Then each player is going to get a bowl full of marbles. That is their colors. They have small ones and large ones. And so on your turn, you just got to put a marble so it stays out on the side of the board. And players are going to take turns placing these marbles. Now, if a marble ever falls off, doesn't matter whose color it is. Let's say the yellow player just knocked off that green one. Then that gets added to my bowl. You need to get rid of all your marbles to win. You think I would have learned from putting it on that one. Each player has 1 big marble, which those can fit in spots that the other ones can't necessarily, but once they're in, you can sometimes get other marbles to sit around there. So that's the way this game is going to be. Now, the game is over when one person gets rid of all their marbles. However, if any player thinks that there's no safe place to play, you can pass. Once everyone has passed, the game's over, and whoever has the fewest marbles left is the winner of the game. And that is how you play.
Here's the thing with Tightrope. I think there's a decent game in Tightrope somewhere, but there's a couple problems with it. One, they don't give you, the marbles don't stay out there long enough. I guess that's the main problem with the game, right? The marbles are going to drop, and the game says at any point, if everyone passes, whoever has the most marbles left wins. Well, one person's never going to pass. They're going to keep trying to put their marbles on until they put more on than everybody else. So the rules should clearly say when everyone but one person has passed, because that will end the game. But again, that could even be a problem because 2 people could go back and forth because that person has most of their marbles out. Just let us put more bands on, give us fewer marbles, make it a little bit to the point where whoever gets their marbles out first wins. That's it. And I think that would make the game go better. And in fact, the game comes with extra sticks and bands, so we just use them. I shouldn't have to house rule a game, though. And a game shouldn't come with any questions when you get this game out like that. So Tightrope, there's a lot of interesting ideas, but I can't really recommend it right now. So I have to give it a 6 out of 10. There's some good concepts here. The quality of components is fantastic. With some house rules, you might enjoy it, so maybe it's worth you getting. But out of the box, I don't know that I love it. Well, there you go. 6 different games. Maybe they're for you, maybe not. Either way, if you do love them, let us know in the comments. My opinions aren't the all end all be all, but if you are going to get one, check out Mytikas, or I looked it up online how to pronounce it, and I listened and I'm still not getting it. Anyway, that's the best one of the bunch. Although all of these have some interesting concepts to them, and I'd like to see more from each of these companies. I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel.